Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers McSwine.
Good afternoon. I'm Florence Myers McSwine, co-host of the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. And I'm here with your host today, Mr. Lee Martin. Lee, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really eager to get into our conversation. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about a free service of the National Federation of the Blind, and it's called the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. And it is such a fantastic service, and people are using it. We do know that informed citizens make informed decisions. And through this National Federation of the Blind service, which allows individuals that are print challenged, those that have certain forms of dyslexia, those that have problems turning the pages and just actually navigating printed publications. This service allows you to read, once again, over 500 publications, over 13 international publications, a plethora of national newspapers and magazines, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the UPI, many others. And Florence, share with them the devices and the magazines.
I sure can, Lee. Now, as you know, I prefer using my iPhone. I have an app on my iPhone, and I can access NFB Newsline on that. You can also access it using our Victor Reader Stream, our A-Lady, as I like to call her, the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library, as well as your computer. Now, what's new, though, is with the app, we have the KNFB Reader, and that is a very, very useful tool that I use. I can read my mail, I can read any document. It's right there at my fingertips everywhere I go. So I am loving my KNFB Reader, Lee.
Well, I'm loving it too, and it's a 3.0 basic KNFB reader. And I tell you, for the service to offer that and to offer it to us for free, you cannot beat that. Because I mean, I tell you, get my mail in now, and I got my KNFB reader, take a snap of it, and instantaneously I have that information. So it is a great tool, and we encourage you to learn more about the service, listen to our commercials, and you can find out how to contact us and utilize this great tool. Very innovative. So we're going to take a pause, and we're going to come back with our guest today. You're not going to want to go away. You're going to want to listen to this gentleman that we have coming on, Mr. Ben Trica. So stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And today we have been honored to have this guest, Mr. Ben Troutman and Lee.
Yes. Uh, Brother Ben, how are you today?
Great, Lee. Thanks for having me, Florence and Lee. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. We have a lot to discuss. You're just doing so many great things down there around the state. And one thing you want to talk about is that diversity and inclusion outreach specialist, that you are. But we're going to first talk about um, a very special date that helped change your life. And you're going to tell us a little bit about March 19th, 2006.
That's right. So, Lee, that was the date I suffered a spinal cord injury that really it changed my life forever. Before my injury, I would have known nothing about disability. I would have known nothing about having to live with people helping me on a day-to-day basis, CNAs, nurses. I would have known nothing about many of these different disabilities and the way that they affect people and families all across the state and the nation. And so on March 19th, I, as I said, suffered a spinal cord injury while I was dirt biking with some family members. And what I have learned since the 14 or so years from that time is just how many people across the United States that and the world, quite frankly, that are affected by disability, whether it's a visual impairment, whether it's a hearing impairment, whether it's a spinal cord injury, spina bifida, autism. There are so many people and such a wide range of people that are in this, quote, minority population, if you will, that are affected. And, from banking services to employment services, our society has done an incremental job of serving individuals with disabilities. You talked earlier in this broadcast about some of the technology. I use voice recognition technology on my computer. So the world is definitely catching up for people with disabilities. But since that time, I certainly have learned a lot of stories of individuals, the challenges and opportunities that they face that are different. But quite frankly, I've learned that disability, it's not you, Lee, it's not me. It's all of us. It's our community, and it's a part of who we are as a society.
Now, as far as your disability, your accident, tell me, Ben, how did it affect your family? I know initially I know it affects everyone, but how did it affect your family when this accident happened?
Sure. We didn't know what to do in the beginning. We didn't know where to go, what the possibilities were, what to be scared of. But what it did is unite us, really. It brought us together in many different ways. I had to go to a couple different hospitals afterwards. We had to coordinate my care. We had to figure out, my brother's 2 years younger than me. He was still in school. I was a junior in high school at this time, and he's a freshman in high school. So it caused a lot of coordination. It caused a lot of communication barriers and also improvements. I would say that I have a closer relationship with my mother than I probably ever would have, because she did a lot of my care in the beginning and still does. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. She might say, "My God, I can't get away from this man." But the relationships that I've had with my family have, quite frankly, brought us closer after my injury, because we talk more. We talk more in depth about the way that we're feeling and things that affect us, and how we're going to coordinate activities. There's one thing about a disability, is that whether you're planning to go to a restaurant or planning to go on a vacation, you have to think a little bit more about how you get in somewhere or how you're going to survive and do well. Are you going to be able to stay at this place overnight? Is it accessible? And so it causes for family discussions and interactions to be much closer, much more in depth. So if anything, my injury in this situation has certainly caused us to unite more than ever before.
Now, Ben, what role do you think that the Americans with Disabilities Act play in access for you, as you just spoke on? Does it play as vital a role as it should, or do you think there can be great improvements to that?
It's interesting you bring that up. I was on a call just yesterday, talking about the celebration of the 30th anniversary of the ADA. I would certainly say that the ADA was a significant start to recognizing people with disabilities and allowing for further opportunities, whether it's transportation or employment. And I think it really set the tone in 1990, which crazy, 30 years ago, was important. I think that now we look back at that landmark piece of legislation and we turn to, my job. I work for an employer that is interested in employing more people with disabilities. So I think the landscape has changed from government solving our problems to more private institutions and companies solving our problems, seeing the business case. But I certainly believe that the ADA being signed in 1990 was a landmark piece of legislation that, quite frankly, acknowledged this large population of people with disabilities, that there were human rights issues, that it was important that we had accessible travel, that we had accessible transportation, that we did not have barriers, if you will, in many different ways. It's just like any other social justice, if you will, platform, from voting rights, from women to African Americans. It's just acknowledging a portion of society that's needed to be acknowledged. Unfortunately, it was only 30 years ago, which makes it very young, but it was the start, I would say, to something very significant for all of us that are affected. And the world is just growing and learning each and every day, as it does from any social reform or social platform.
Well, I tell you, it is such a pleasure to share with you. We're going to have to take a short pause here, and we're going to come back with more reality from Ben Trotman, and stay tuned.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
I love to read. I've always loved to read. Reading takes me places I'm not able to go by air, bus, or car. I plan on reading every newspaper Newsline has.
No more did I have to wonder about the rest of the story when disaster struck. I could open the local paper for that town and find out. And when I discovered that NFB Newsline could be a powerful tool for TV watching, listing all my favorite channels and what was on when, I was most definitely hooked.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show, where our guest is Mr. Ben Trachman. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Ben Trachman.
Well, thank you very much. Mayor Florence has got more for me.
I certainly do. Ben, we were just talking about ADA, and I wanted to know what accommodations do you feel are most helpful to you?
Sure. I'd say when it comes to accommodations, that takes me back to really some of the first things I learned after my injury, and quite frankly, a couple of years after that I received as I started my job at Old National Bank. Some of the things that have been important for me is my speech recognition software that I utilize on my computer. So I'm lucky that my employer was able to set up a nice small office for me where I had my computer, my multiple screens set up. I had my voice recognition set up. I was in a different room, so I'm not like person at my computer and other people are, hearing me yell what I need to write, scratch that, move this up and down. I know that employer, the conversations for, quite frankly, just having the ability to have an interview with individuals prior to my job that was kind of outside of the normal circumstance, informational interviews, not really an accommodation, but a different way of going about, having conversations about employment was important. So a lot of accommodations from healthcare, having my healthcare workers around on the job when I'm at Old National, to having the right technology has been really important for me to be successful.
Okay, Ben, so you're working with a great company now, is with Old National Bank?
That's right. I've been with the company for a little over 6 years, Lee, and we have learned an incredible amount. My title as Diversity and Inclusion Outreach Specialist sounds pretty broad, but I work specifically, and I've had the opportunity and privilege of working specifically on disability inclusion issues. And when we first started our endeavors at Old National, we really, quite frankly, did not know what we wanted to do or how. We knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to become the most inclusive employer of people with disabilities in the Midwest, but we didn't know exactly how to do it. And so we looked around at other companies that were starting endeavors to be more inclusive and starting their journeys. And there wasn't really a particular example that stood out that we thought it fit our company culture. But just thinking a little bit more in depth, mentoring is something that our company really believes in. Mentoring young people, mentoring young leaders, helping people grow and learn. And so what that turned into, Lee, is a program that I launched 5 or so years ago. I have now had over 100 participants in our program, and that is our Achievability Professional Mentoring Program. And what it looks like, Lee, is that I recruit individuals, aspiring young professionals with disabilities, but mostly from the college campuses, to be paired with executive leaders at our company for a 10-month-long mentoring relationship. We encourage our mentors and mentees to meet once per month. Nowadays that's via WebEx mostly, or Zoom, or that kind of thing. But they have conversations about building confidence. They have conversations about the interview process. They have conversations about networking in the future. And at the end of the mentorship, the hope is that the mentee, the student with a disability, will have built their confidence and their professional network to be prepared for to enter society and to compete for a successful job, a successful career. And selfishly for us as Old National executives, as Old National leaders, we have the opportunity to learn from individuals of all different disabilities. As I mentioned earlier, we've had folks with spinal cord injuries, blind, deaf, spina bifida, autism, many different disabilities that participated. And it allows us as an organization to learn from those individuals, how they've overcome their disabilities, what type of accommodations do they need, what kind of opportunities and barriers have they faced. And quite frankly, it has made us be more inclusive because we know more about the individuals and the things that they have overcome. And it's a way of recruiting young talent. We've built an incredible bench of people that now, quite frankly, are ready to come back to Old National and compete for a job. But it's taught those relationships have taught us many great lessons, Lee.
Well, I tell you what, you've been doing some great things over there, and I'm really impressed with that Achievability professional membership program. And so how does individual go about applying for that?
So they can easily get in contact with me. You can search Achievability Old National Bank and find a link online. You can also get in contact with me via email, ben.trockman@oldnational.com, TROCKMAN @oldnational.com. We can talk more about it. There's a video on YouTube that you can watch. And like I said, the link is through our company website under Achievability.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short pause and come back with the conclusion of our program, and we'll be right back.
Now, thanks to NFB Newsline, I feel that my eyes have been opened to a whole new world of information. I can again keep up with sports right along with my husband and sons. They're impressed that I have this service, and personally, I am too.
I was happy to see that I can again read Guidepost and Reader's Digest. It's funny when you think about how the simple things in life, like reading your favorite magazines, can make a heart smile. I want to thank the NFB Newsline team for what they do.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed, I wish I could read my favorite magazines.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to the conclusion of our show. And we've been talking with Ben Troutman. And Ben, you are on the city council in Evansville. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. I tell you, Florence, I have been on city council here in Evansville for 11 months now, in the year of 2020. And I'll tell you that I could not have imagined that my first year in office that we would be dealing with a great race relations issue and a pandemic. I apparently signed up for the wrong year to get in the political business. It has been an incredible experience. It really has. I personally wanted to challenge myself to learn more about people, about the way that our city functions, our government functions, to get to know people in different departments that make our city great and work well. And for me, it's been an opportunity to quite frankly learn about the way that people operate, their personalities, what makes them drive, what makes them tick. I've been able to connect with many great individuals, as I mentioned, from different departments within the city, to people that care about sidewalks and roads, to people that care about different security and safety concerns, to people that care about the environment. It's been a really interesting time for me in my life, and to learn, quite frankly, just how the government works. So a great learning lesson, a great challenge, because I, as we discussed, I get to work in a very, very rewarding job at Old National Bank, where I don't deal with a lot of conflict. And as everybody knows, there's a bit of conflict when it comes to politics and government. So it's been a great learning lesson for me, and I've enjoyed my experience, and I look forward to connecting with more city council members throughout the state to learn the great work that they do and how they overcome issues and obstacles as well, because we all do it together.
Well, I tell you what, it's been great to have you on our show today. And would you leave us with some encouraging words?
I appreciate the opportunity, Lee. It's been great to speak with both you and Florence. And what I would like to close with is one of my favorite quotes that might drive home a point. It's by James Dean. And the quote goes as this: "Dream as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die today."
Amen. So there we have it. Thank you so very much, Ben. Lawrence, has been a great show. We want to ask our listening audience, if you look on the screen, follow the runner, and you'll find more information on how to contact Mr. Ben Trachman. So thank you so very much. We look forward for you to join us next week on our National Federation of the Blind NFB Newsline Indiana show. Be blessed, take care, stay safe.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.